Hello and welcome along to the AFL preview of Round 8 action, brought to you by TABtouch. David Shortte and Digby Beacham with you. G'day, Diggers.
Shorty, good morning.
We're both just dusting ourselves down after what was a horrible week, round 7, just the 3.
Train wreck.
Oh, geez, you had to be good to find the winners last week. Anyway, we're going to put that behind us and look through the window in front of us, and hopefully we can find all 9 this weekend. Aren't we a positive bunch? Digby, it all gets underway tomorrow night with West Coast taking on the Western Bulldogs. Good coin for the Coasters at home, 155 into 150. Western Bulldogs 245 out to 260.
Massive game, Shorty, isn't it? It's the rematch of last year's elimination final, which the Bulldogs comprehensively won against West Coast here before a stunned Domain Stadium crowd. I'm expecting West Coast to bounce back and get the win that they deserved, or they thought they deserved last year. I don't think there'll be a lot in it though. I think it's a really, really tight game. I suspect that the Bulldogs are a little bit better and deeper through the midfield, but West Coast at home, I'll have to tip them just.
Yeah, look, I think if you stick with West Coast at home over the course of the season, you're going to get a lot more right than wrong. And it's one of those things that they might drop 1 or 2 home games for the season. Trying to pick which ones they are is not my caper. I'll stick with the Coasters to get the job done in Friday night footy, albeit giving the Dogs certainly plenty of scope to serve it right up to West Coast. Should be a great game of footy. On to the Saturday action. We head down to Tasmania, where Hawthorn play host to the Brisbane Lions, the hapless Brisbane Lions. $1.07 out to 111 for the Hawkies. Brisbane a bit of money as the outsider, 8 into 650.
Yeah, Hawthorn win, don't they? They just, look, they're banged up. Brisbane, they're just going. There's no Mitch Robertson on top of no Dane Beams. Hawthorn are very good down there. We know they got beat there a fortnight ago by St Kilda Shorty, but it's hard to tip anything other than the Hawthorn win.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Hawks certainly on paper look like they'll get the job done in that one. We move on to the St Kilda Carlton clash at Etihad Stadium. St Kilda $1.22 out to 124. Money about for the Blues, $4.30 into $4.10. They've been okay so far this year, Carlton, but I quite like what we've seen from St Kilda so far this season. This looks a very winnable game for them.
I agree. I expect they'll win. They play very good football inside Etihad Stadium, and their form lines, I think, Shorty, are really good. They've stood up against some very good sides this season thus far, and I expect they win tomorrow and improve to 5-3.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think they're putting great pressure on the ball carrier, and that's a really good start to your game. If you can tidy things up around that, you can certainly go a long way, but most importantly, they're tackling really well. The Saints are putting pressure on the opposition. On to the GWS Collingwood game. Well, I'm still zip 7 for Collingwood. I haven't been able to find them once so far this season, so just look to go opposite to what I'm rolling with here. They're $1.22 and firm, the Giants. The Pies $4.30 and firm. Look, I've got to go with the Giants, but every time Collingwood are involved in the frame so far this year, Digby, I get it wrong, so who knows what might happen here.
I think you're right this time, Shorty. I'm going to back you in. I expect that the Giants will rebound after that poor effort against St Kilda last Friday night. Fair bit of focus on them. Admittedly, there's a fair degree of focus also on Collingwood and Nathan Buckley, but GWS out at Spotless Stadium, that looks a safe bet.
Yeah, home ground advantage. You'd think the Giants prevail. We move on to the Essendon Geelong clash at the MCG. Essendon $3.15 out to $3.20. Geelong $1.36 into $1.35. Well, the Cats, this looks a nice game for them, but gee, they've been disappointing the last fortnight.
Yeah, they have, Shorty. They were really poor up at Metricon Stadium last Saturday night. They just defensively had so many gaps. If they tighten up that area, I can see them beating Essendon, who are just going also. They were 2-0. They're now 3-4. They ran out of legs over here against Fremantle, so the Cats for mine. Yeah,
I'll stick with the Cats there as well. On to the Adelaide Oval on Saturday night. Adelaide doing battle with Melbourne. $1.10 out to $1.12. The Crows, the D, $6.75 into $6.25. Well, a really mind-blowingly poor performance from Adelaide. They'd been the real benchmark up to that performance last week where they were beaten by North Melbourne. That said, back home to Adelaide Oval, they have been the form side of the year. I'm prepared to forgive them that effort from last week. I think Adelaide will win and win really well here.
Yeah, agree, Shorty. And I think if you're having a bet, you can look at them covering the line, as you say often, with West Coast here in Perth. And I think Adelaide at Adelaide Oval is also a formula which you can follow, Shorty. So I'm expecting the Crows to win and win comfortably.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this could actually get a little bit untidy late in the game. Adelaide at home, they can really run sides, and off that poor performance last week, I think Don Pike will have them fizzed up and ready to fire on Saturday night. We move to the Sunday action and to the MCG, where Richmon play host to Fremantle. $1.35 out to $1.38 for the Tigers. Fremantle $3.15 into $3.05. Well, Freo got the job done again last week against Essendon. Richmon, I thought, were really good last week against the Dogs. They certainly lost no admirers there. With home ground advantage, the Tigers do look hard to beat.
I agree. And they've only had the one bad game, haven't they, Richmond, which was that that blip on the radar, so to speak, against the Crows at Adelaide. And we've just spoken about how dominant they are.
And that's forgivable when you look at Adelaide's record.
100%. So Richmond at the MCG, that's their preferred venue. Fremantle have been a little bit sloppy at their starts. If they do that against Richmond and spot them a lead, they'll be hard to run down.
Yeah, I agree. Then we head across internationally to China, where the Gold Coast Suns take on Port Adelaide. 285 out to 320 for Gold Coast. They've been big drifters. Port Adelaide, as has been the case most of this season, they've been popular with the punters. $1.42 into 135.
I think Port Adelaide is a side that you can trust perhaps a little bit more than Gold Coast. Gold Coast are going okay, Shorty. I thought the power all right against West Coast, but they just lacked a little bit of method. So in China, no David Swallow for Gold Coast. That's significant, so I'll tip the power.
Yeah, I'll go with the power as well in that one, Digby. But yeah, the Suns were pretty good last week against Geelong, and they're certainly going to get their hope as an outsider, particularly this season where there's been so many upsets. You're sort of looking at the markets, and there's a few that are lopsided this weekend where you can make a case for the outsider. I thought that was maybe one of those games. And the final clash is a tricky one at Etihad Stadium. North Melbourne, off their big win against Adelaide last week, 175 out to 185. Sydney finally got their first win of the year last week, beating up on the Brisbane Lions. They're 205 into 195.
Well, if you're going on current form, Shorty, you tip North Melbourne all day, every day. But I just think Sydney might be warming to their work. They'll get back Tippett, they'll get back Rowan. Their midfield was okay, albeit it was against Brisbane last week. I think they play Etihad Stadium okay. No Jared Wade is significant for North, so I'll tip Sydney in a tight one. Really interesting game, though.
Yeah, it really is. And, well, you're a North man and you're going against them. But this is our point of difference for this weekend. I'm going with the Kangas. I liked what I saw against Adelaide last week, and if they can play to that intensity against Sydney, who, granted, they were good last week, but I'm not sure about the opposition, Brisbane. It might have flattered them a little. I'll stick with the Blue and Whites, but it's a pretty tricky game to round out proceedings for AFL Round 8. Digby, a recap on those tips. We're both going West Coast to be too good for the Western Bulldogs, Hawthorn to be too good for Brisbane, St Kilda to take care of Carlton, the GWS Giants to be far too strong for Collingwood, Geelong over Essendon, Adelaide over Melbourne, Richmond over Freo, Port Adelaide to be too good over there in China against Gold Coast, and I'm going North Melbourne, you're going Sydney in the final game.
Let's hope that there's a bit better result this week, Shorty, than we did last week.
We can't go much worse, Diggers, that's for sure. Let's get into the multi-action for your good self this week.
I've gone St Kilda and Adelaide both to win on Saturday. I think they're good bet, Shorty, into Richmond and Port Adelaide, and that is paying $2.64.
$2.64. Okay, well, I'm tipping I'm tipping St Kilda and Richmond to get the cash. I would certainly think the Saints will get the business done. I think Richmond might be a touch too strong for Freo. And rounding out with what will be one of my anchor bets for most of the season, Adelaide to beat the line at home, 38.5. You need them to win by 39 or more. With their scoring power up front, they're a side that score heavily and quickly. And I think they will be getting the job done and winning 40 plus against Melbourne. So that's $3.26 for the multi this weekend. What about your novelty bet for this week, Diggs?
I've gone wire-to-wire market, Shorty, and I've had GWS to lead all the way against Collingwood, into Richmond to do likewise against Fremantle at the MCG on Sunday, and that is paying $3.84 in the wire-to-wire markets.
All right, so what you need there is that they need to be leading at quarter time, half time, three-quarter time and full time. So you don't want either of their opponents getting in front of them at any stage of the match. I'm going to the game in China. They've got a special medal up for grabs in this game called the Shanghai Medal. And a man that's been in really hot form this year for Port Adelaide is Robbie Gray. I thought the $10 on offer for him was pretty generous. He's a guy that can kick goals, he can go through the middle of the ground and get plenty of the ball. He's a real danger man. He's in tip-top form. I think Port will win, and if they do, I think Robbie Gray is be a huge chance of winning this medal. $10 looks very nice indeed. Don't forget, $2 lines available right throughout the course of this weekend with TABtouch on all of the games this weekend. You can take them into racing, sport, singles, multis, however you like it. And all this weekend, use that to your advantage. $2 lines only with TABtouch this upcoming weekend. Digby, good luck.
Pleasure, Shorty. Thank you, and we'll see you in next Thursday, round 9.
Hopefully with a lot more tips on the board. Good luck to you. Hope you have a ripper weekend. If you're having a punt, make sure you do it with TABtouch.